Mom called me a disappointment at dinner, until I finally said I'd pay $61,000 to keep their house afloat. But before I share my story, please take a minute of your precious time to support our channel. Your support and love keeps us going. I held my glass of iced tea, so tightly my knuckles blanched, determined not to let my mother see the sting her words left on me. "Danielle, you'll never measure up to your brother," she declared, her voice sharp enough to slice through the chatter at the polished oak dinner table. Light from the chandelier danced across the surface of the table, casting fractured rainbows over the neatly folded linen napkins. We were there to celebrate Marcus's promotion, a Wednesday night family gathering at my parents' home in Cleveland Heights. I had sprinted straight from a grueling 10-hour workday, barely swapping my wrinkled blouse for a clean one before showing up. "Mom," Marcus began, but stopped when she lifted her hand like a judge halting court. "It's just the truth, darling," she said evenly. "Your brother chose ambition while you settle for safety. Both have value, but we must recognize reality." My father cleared his throat, his eyes fixed on the half-eaten tilapia on his plate. "Your mother's right, Danielle. Marcus is well on track for director before 30. Different journeys, that's all." I studied Marcus, immaculate in his tailored indigo suit, his locks freshly retwisted, his confidence filling the room. Then my eyes shifted to my mother, wearing the gold brooch I gave her last Christmas. She once brushed it off as too gaudy for me, yet somehow it had become her centerpiece at every event Marcus starred in. A dam broke inside me. 2 years of biting my tongue snapped. I reached into my handbag and pulled out the property statement I'd been carrying for days, waiting for a chance that never felt right. "I've been covering your bills," I said, dropping the paper in front of them, "including this house, for the past 2 years. For a second, my mother's eyes widened. Then her features settled into practiced dismissal. "That's family responsibility," she said smoothly. "Marcus needs freedom to focus on his career." The memory of Marcus's college graduation stormed into my mind, how they handed him the keys to a brand-new silver Nissan wrapped with a ridiculous bow, while I received a ceramic mug stamped with my alma mater's logo. "You're already on your feet," Mom had explained then, catching the disappointment I tried to hide. "Your brother needs us more." And when Dad first called me 2 years ago, his voice hesitant, asking if I could cover just 1 month's mortgage until things steadied, I believed it. But 2 years wasn't temporary anymore. I slid my finger along the corner of the paper. "This isn't helping anymore. This is draining me." Mom's voice sharpened, steel beneath honey. "Why are you being selfish? Family lifts family." I reached again into my bag and pulled out the accordion folder I had assembled, bank slips, transfer receipts, canceled checks. 2 years of sacrifice cataloged in order. "I've lifted enough," I said, though my hands shook. "I'm not an endless fountain." My father flushed crimson. "Marcus is at a pivotal point, and I'm at the end of my patience." I cut in, my voice steadier than expected. Marcus blinked, confusion crossing his face. "What's going on?" No one answered. My mother stared daggers into me, my father studied the ceiling, and Marcus sat adrift. In that moment, I realized what my place in this family truly was. Not daughter, not sister, not equal, just the reliable wallet in the background. I pushed my chair back. "I'll be taking a break from family dinners and family payments. You'll regret this," my mother hissed, her face cold. "Family is all we have." I paused at the doorway, a strange lightness stirring inside me. Then maybe I have nothing. A week slipped by after that explosive dinner. Outside of a couple of Marcus's texts, short check-ins that felt more like guilt than concern, my parents didn't reach out. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, my mother called. Her voice sounded airy, almost casual. "Danielle, I need your help organizing my tax paperwork. You're so good with numbers." A backhanded compliment, praising my skill while minimizing the career I'd built in software development. I hadn't gone looking for it, but as I sifted through her towering piles of papers, a familiar name froze me in place. My own. It wasn't my debt, though. It was Marcus's. A student loan statement bearing his name, yet stamped with my account number. Nearly $21,800 had been pulled directly from me. My pulse thundered. I flipped through the stack with trembling hands. Auto loan payments, credit card bills, designer purchases, fancy dinners, not emergencies, Not one-time favors. Systematic extractions, all carried out under the guise of family help. Footsteps behind me. I turned, paper still in hand. My mother stood in the doorway, pearls gleaming against her blouse. "Did you find the mortgage forms?" she asked lightly, until her eyes narrowed on the documents clutched in my fingers. Her face shifted, not to guilt, but to irritation at being caught. "What is this?" My voice cracked, sounding far away even to myself. My father appeared, glasses perched on his head. Marcus lingered in the hallway, scrolling on his phone as if detached from it all. "Don't start a scene," Mom warned, stepping closer. Dad followed, both of them looming over me as if I were a rebellious child. "You used my money," I said, tapping the figure on the page. "Over 21 grand for Marcus's loans." "That was family need," Mom said dismissively. "His education was the priority. And the car payments?" I held up another sheet. "Almost 4,000 last year alone. Transportation is critical for his role," Dad replied quickly. "He meets clients." I fanned out more statements. Nearly $10,000 in charges. Designer suits. Upscale restaurants. And this. "A professional image matters," Mom shot back unflinching. Finally, Marcus looked up, his brow furrowed. "I didn't ask for any of this," he muttered. "Mom said you were glad to pitch in." The walls seemed to close in. 2 years of believing I was plugging a temporary leak, when in reality, I was funding a carefully engineered system. "You're the stable one," Dad said, his tone softening as if I should understand. "Your career is steady. Marcus needs the cushion to rise. Stable. Boring. Dependable. The daughter who keeps the ship afloat while the sun gets to shine." "My own loans aren't even cleared," I snapped, voice rising. "I've skipped dental work because of this." "That's different," Mom insisted. "Your path doesn't require presentation." The insult was sharp and deliberate. My coding job? Invisible. His marketing career. Spotlight. "Do you know what this has done to me?" My voice steadied again. "If I keep draining myself like this, I'll never own a home. Never retire. Never breathe." Mom blinked, genuinely perplexed by my logic. "Families take care of each other, Danielle. Besides, Marcus's wedding is next spring. Of course, you'll help with that too." The casual entitlement knocked the breath from me. I grabbed the thick folder I had compiled, flipping to the final page. The total screamed at me, in yellow highlighter, $65,400. Mortgage, loans, auto, credit cards. Every dollar funneled through me while they painted me as the lesser child. Later that day, I slid into a cafe booth across from my colleague and closest friend, Renee. I laid the folder in front of her, my coffee going untouched. She turned page after page, her expression darkening. Finally, she closed it and pushed it back across the table. "This isn't family support, Danielle," she said firmly. "This is exploitation." The word landed like a blow. Exploitation. Not sacrifice. Not duty. Exploitation. That night, driving home with the folder beside me, I turned the word over in my mind until it burned. Should I cut them off completely and risk tearing the family bond beyond repair? Or taper off slowly, still bleeding financially while they adjusted? Either way, my future hung in the balance. The following Wednesday at work, my phone buzzed nonstop, 5 calls from my cousin already that week. The family had declared an emergency meeting. I wanted no part of it. I silenced the phone and laid it face down on my desk. "The Johnson family reunion seems to be the hot topic," Renee quipped from her cubicle. Her raised eyebrow told me she already knew. "My mother organized the whole thing," I muttered, rubbing my temples. "Didn't even tell me until the last minute. And now they want me to fund it." Renee's eyes widened. The nerve. After everything. I nodded grimly and opened my email. 3 new messages from distant relatives, each dripping with the same coded request. "The family needs you." I had been cast as the designated lifeline, whether I volunteered or not. "Did you know about the reunion?" I asked Renee. "No," she said, swiveling her chair, "but Marcus's engagement is plastered all over Instagram." She turned her monitor toward me. My mother had tagged everyone except me. Marcus's smiling face filled the screen, his fiancée showing off a diamond ring under the caption, "Celebrating the engagement of the year with my brilliant son." #blessed. The first comment stopped my breath cold. Danielle will make it perfect. She always does. That night, curled on my couch with a mug of tea, I scrolled through Facebook. My thumb froze on a photo. My parents and Marcus in Las Vegas. Cocktails raised under neon lights. The timestamp, the same weekend I worked overtime to cover their emergency property tax payment. They had been sipping martinis on the strip with my money while telling me they couldn't keep a roof over their heads. Sleep became impossible. Night after night, I lay awake, replaying every check I'd written, every transfer I'd made. My chest tightened with numbers I could no longer ignore. At work, my exhaustion began to show. "You look run down," my manager commented one Thursday after I missed a deadline, my first in 3 years. "I'm fine," I lied, though the shadows under my eyes betrayed me. I started keeping a journal. Every phone call, every text, every dollar sent. The small leather book turned into my silent witness, a record of patterns too deliberate to dismiss. One Tuesday evening, as I left the office, a voice stopped me. "Danielle." I turned to see Uncle Harold near the elevators, his lined face soft with concern. "Uncle Harold? What are you doing here?" "Looking for you," he said simply. "You've missed too many gatherings." "That's not like you." I looked down, fumbling for words. "I always thought you were the backbone of his family," he continued gently. "But now I wonder if they've mistaken your strength for a resource to exploit." His words cracked something in me, and I blinked back tears in the sterile hallway light. That Saturday, I found myself again in my parents' kitchen. Marcus flipped through bridal magazines while Mom circled venues in red pen. "The country club deposit is due next week," she said without looking up. "Marcus deserves the perfect wedding. You can cover the deposit, of course. Not a request, a command." This time, something inside me broke cleanly. "I'm not paying another dime," I said, my voice steady. The air thickened. Marcus's head snapped up. Mom froze, pen suspended midair. "Don't be absurd," she said, but doubt flickered in her eyes. "I'm serious," I pressed on, surprising myself with the calmness of my tone. "I've paid the mortgage, Marcus's loans, his car, his credit cards. I'm done." Her mouth opened and closed, searching for the guilt-laced words that once worked like spells. But I finally saw the truth, how their favoritism had been financed by me. "You can't just," she began. "I can," I cut her off. "And I am." The next evening, Renee spread spreadsheets across her dining table, calculator clicking. "Without their drain," she said, circling a figure, "you could be debt-free in 3 years. 3, Danielle. Not 15. The number stared back at me, a future I had barely dared to imagine. Later that night, Uncle Harold called. "I spoke with your mother. She's furious." "I know," I sighed. "Good," he said firmly. "Sometimes family has to learn boundaries the hard way. I'm proud of you." I hung up with tears in my eyes but strength in my chest. That same night, I opened my laptop and scrolled through job listings outside Ohio. Seattle kept catching my eye. Tech salaries higher, opportunities abundant, a chance to start 2,500 miles away. For the first time, I let myself picture a life where my earnings belonged to me. The next morning, I drove to the bank and requested full records of every transaction over the past 2 years. The clerk raised her brows at the bulk, but complied. By evening, I had stacks of papers spread across my apartment floor, color-coded, highlighted, and tabbed. Among them, I stumbled across something I wasn't supposed to see, one of my father's hidden accounts. The balance mocked every story of hardship he'd spun while draining me dry. My phone rang. Mom's name lit the screen. "We're holding a family responsibility meeting tomorrow," she announced, skipping any greeting. "The mortgage payment didn't come through." "I told you," I said calmly. "I'm done paying." "This isn't a game, Danielle," she snapped. "Be here at 6. I stared at the evidence covering my table. For once, I held every card. "I'll be there," I whispered, with receipts. Tuesday evening, I parked 2 houses down from my parents' colonial-style home. On the passenger seat sat a thick black binder, nearly 3 inches wide, every page proof of their exploitation. Inside, the smell of lemon polish hit me. My parents sat like monarchs at either end of the dining table. Marcus slouched between them, scrolling his phone. "You're early," Mom remarked, surprise flickering before she masked it. I dropped the binder onto the table with a thud. I wanted to be thorough. Dad frowned. Thorough about what? I flipped the first tab, mortgage. Highlighted payments, neatly totaled. 24 payments at $1,300 each. That's $31,200. That can't be right, Mom muttered. I turned another tab. Marcus's student loans, $21,800. Dad shifted in his chair, his fingers drumming on the polished wood. Car payments, $3,900. I flipped again. Credit cards, $9,500. Marcus's phone slipped from his hand and clattered onto the table. That's more than I make in months, he whispered. The grand total, I said, landing on the summary page highlighted in yellow, $66 for 100. Mom's lips pinched thin. You're exaggerating. Half those payments were gifts. I pulled out a manila folder thick with canceled checks and receipts. The slap it made on the wood felt final. Would you like to go line by line? Marcus reached for the folder, his hands trembling. He scanned one of the statements, his face paling. These were my interview suits. I didn't know. He lifted his eyes. Mom told me you wanted to help. That you had extra money lying around. Extra money? I barked a laugh. I've delayed my own dental work. I'm drowning in my own loans. There was never extra. The doorbell rang. Don't answer, Mom snapped, smoothing her cardigan. That would be Uncle Harold, I said evenly. I invited him. Her face hardened, but Harold stepped in anyway, his booming voice filling the silence. Evening, everybody. I hear we're talking numbers. Mom's jaw clenched. You knew about this? I suspected, he said gravely, settling into a chair beside me. Emergency help is one thing. Treating Danielle like a personal bank is another. The room sagged under silence. Marcus fidgeted, finally speaking. Yesterday, my fiancé asked why Danielle never comes to events. I didn't know what to say. They don't need to understand our family, Mom hissed. They do when the Hendersons are asking about your spending habits, Harold shot back. People are talking. The dining room fell still until Marcus's phone pinged. He looked at the screen and blanched. It's the mortgage company. They're sending a late notice. For the first time, I saw fear in my father's eyes. Their house of cards was collapsing, and I wasn't rushing to hold it up. 2 days later, we sat again at their kitchen table. The light streaming and caught dust in the air. Danielle, we've been thinking, Dad said, sliding a paper toward me. His smile was brittle, his fingers tapping a nervous beat. Mom nodded, her eyes darting to the pile of overdue bills half hidden under a cookbook. Families should recognize contributions. We haven't given you enough credit. Her tone was rehearsed. A performance. We have a compromise, she continued. If you resume the mortgage payments, we'll make sure everyone knows how much you do for us. Dad leaned in. Think about what you're risking. Once family ties snap, they don't mend. 2 months ago, I would have folded. 2 weeks ago, I might have bargained. But now, I opened my laptop. I've accepted a new job, I said, turning the screen toward them. Software architect. Seattle. $140,000 a year. The color drained from Mom's face. Seattle? That's across the country. And without supporting this household, I added, pointing to my spreadsheet, I'll save over $3,500 every month. You can't just leave, she snapped. I've been paying for the privilege of being disrespected, I said coolly. That ends now. Dad reached for my hand. Danielle, be reasonable. I am, I replied, for the first time in years. My phone buzzed. A text from Uncle Harold. Everyone's ready when you are. I closed the laptop and stood. I need to go. Marcus's dinner starts in half an hour. The restaurant buzzed with laughter and clinking glasses as I entered the private room Uncle Harold had reserved. Marcus sat at the head of the table in a cream suit, his fiancée beaming beside him. Aunts, uncles, cousins all gathered. My parents trailed in behind me, confusion etched on their faces. What is this about? My mother whispered sharply. I didn't answer. I walked to Marcus and set a neatly wrapped gift box in front of him. The silver paper caught the chandelier light. Open it, I said loudly enough for everyone. The chatter died. Marcus peeled away the paper, lifted the lid, and froze. Inside lay a leather-bound portfolio, every receipt, every bank transfer, every debt I had covered for 2 years. "This," I said, my voice clear, "is my gift. The truth of who's been paying." Gasps spread through the room as Marcus flipped the pages. His eyes widened, his jaw tight. $66,000? He turned to our parents. "How could you hide this?" "Not here," Mom hissed. But Marcus snapped the book shut. "No. Here. Now." Uncle Harold rose, his voice booming. "Danielle has carried this family while being treated like she doesn't measure up. That ends today." Whispers rippled through the crowd. My Aunt Denise clasped her hand over her mouth. "Elaine, is this true?" My father stared at the carpet. My mother's face burned crimson. Marcus walked over to me, clutching the portfolio. His voice dropped so only I could hear. "I never knew. I should have asked. From now on, live for you." A single tear rolled down his cheek. For years, I had begged silently for acknowledgement. That night, I received it in front of everyone. Days later, Uncle Harold told me my parents were considering selling the house. Without my money, they couldn't keep up. Part of me wondered if I even cared to salvage anything with them. Packing boxes in my apartment, I scribbled "kitchen" on one and slid my photo album into another labeled "undecided." Smiling family faces stared back at me from old vacations and birthdays, people I no longer recognized. 6 months later, sunlight streamed through the windows of my small Seattle apartment. My student loan app buzzed, another $2,600 payment down. For the first time, every dollar I earned went toward my future, not theirs. A video call rang. Renee's face filled the screen from her Atlanta kitchen. "Look at you," she grinned. "Seattle fits you. You look free." "I closed 2 projects this quarter," I said, smiling. "They already mentioned a promotion by winter. And nobody taking the credit this time," she teased. We laughed together, the sound lighter than anything I'd felt in years. That weekend, Renee and Uncle Harold visited. We gathered in my tiny living room, takeout containers scattered across the table. Harold raised his glass. "To Danielle, who taught me it's never too late to choose your real family." Renee clinked glasses. "To building family, not just accepting the one you're born into." The words sank deep, settling into my bones. One Tuesday, an unexpected email landed in my inbox. "Marcus." My finger hovered over delete, but curiosity won. He wrote, "I've taken over Mom and Dad's mortgage." They weren't thrilled. "Dad even told me to ask you for help." I told him I've been established for years, just never financially independent. "That's changing now. It's harder than I thought, but satisfying. I think I finally understand what you've been telling me all along." Near the end, his words softened. "Mom and Dad want to visit. I told them it's your call. I'd like to come alone in the spring, if you'll have me." My reply was short but honest. Not ready for them. "But yes, I'd love to show you Seattle when the cherry blossoms bloom." Closing my laptop, I leaned back, breathing easier than I had in years. Forgiveness and self-protection stood on opposite shores. Maybe Marcus was rowing toward me, while our parents stayed anchored in denial. For now, I chose peace, the kind built not on sacrifice, but on boundaries. And as the city lights glittered outside my window, I knew this. My life was finally fully mine. Danielle's journey is more than just a tale of financial betrayal. It is the story of reclaiming her voice, her boundaries, and her future. She showed that love without respect is exploitation, and that even when family ties weigh heavy, it is never too late to walk away and choose yourself. Her courage reminds us that setting boundaries is not selfish, it is survival. If you've ever felt drained, overlooked, or used by those who should have lifted you higher, let Danielle's story be your proof that freedom is possible. You deserve peace, respect, and a life built on your own terms. Take the first step today. Protect your worth, set your boundaries, and never apologize for choosing yourself. Your future is waiting.